today we have André, who is our CTO, has worked with Solana Foundation, has worked with Metaplex, is as good as somebody you're going to find in the industry, not only as a developer, but also as a person. I get to work with him every day. It's truly one of the highlights of the work I do.
All right, so let's talk about Metaplex. Metaplex is basically powering the digital asset economy on Solana and the SVM. Why do we say SVM in here? Because a lot of things that you will see in here are actually running as well on different network extensions using Metaplex Aura, but we actually will be able to deep dive a little bit into Aura as well in the next workshop. So I don't want to confuse you guys a lot during this workshop. So if you ever interacted with a fungible or non-fungible token, it was probably done via Metaplex. And why is that? Because 99% of the non-fungible assets run through Metaplex, as well as actually the fungible tokens. Like probably I would say around 90% in the last 6 months, I would say. So all the tokens that have a metadata account on top, they are done through Metaplex. Basically, how it works is that if you see a token with an image and some additional metadata, it was most likely done through Metaplex. But in reality, what is Metaplex? It's an ecosystem of developers, products, and community members. So it's not just a protocol. It's basically 3 different things. We have a foundation. The foundation is a non-profit organization that supports the development, security, and decentralization of the Metaplex protocol. Pretty much, it provides grants to the development, security, and growth of the protocol. Then Metaplex has programs. It's basically a suite of token standards, programs, and resources that enable developers to deploy and manage digital assets. And we'll see a lot of examples of these programs and standards that Metaplex creates. And it is a DAO as well. It's basically a decentralized network of MPLX token holders where they vote for grants and etc. etc. You can have an example of the token metadata program. So now it's a frozen program. Before it was not. So any features that someone wanted to add to the token program will be created in this DAO, voted, and then if the vote will go through, then great, it will be incorporated in the token program. The impact of Metaplex. This thing right here, it's pretty much already, it's not actual. Every single day this actually goes up, right? So there is by the time this presentation was created, 563 million of digital assets created through Metaplex, 627 million transactions to date. And just look at the craziness of the creator revenue, $1.2 billion as creator revenue. This is done across a huge amount of verticals, real-world assets, meme coins, gaming, deepin, art, and it's trusted by all the major protocols that you see out there as Magic Eden, Tensor, Photofinish, Pump.Fun, Star Atlas, etc. Let's actually now see what you can do with Metaplex. First and foremost, let's start with the most known program standard, which is the token metadata program. Thumbs up for people that are familiar with the token metadata program. Let's see them. On it, so one person only. Naman, recent, a lot of thumbs ups. Great. So the main goal of the token metadata program is actually to add additional metadata to both fungible and non-fungible tokens. This is achieved by having a metadata account that you can see right here that will have the name, the symbol of your token, the URI pointing to an external JSON file having additional metadata to your token, etc. And by having as well this edition account. So what is this edition account? This edition account, it's in the case that you're creating an NFT, for instance, this would actually verify that this decimals here of your mint account is 0 to be able to prove that it's actually a non-fungible asset. And it will check that the supply was only one, because it makes sense, right? You cannot have more than one NFT, and an NFT cannot have any kind of decimals. Otherwise, it will be a fungible token as well, right? So this is basically the accounts that the token metadata program creates in order to attach additional data to fungible and non-fungible tokens, and as well to be able to prove the non-fungibility of a token. Another really good program is Bubblegum. Again, thumbs up. I'll see less thumbs up for the Bubblegum program. Who is familiar with this one? No one. All right. So the Bubblegum program is another program created by Metaplex that actually powers compressed NFTs. It makes possible to scale the production of NFTs and storing the data by storing the data of the NFT into a Merkle tree. So when we mean to compress NFT, the data of that NFT is going to be hatched and added as a new leaf in this Merkle tree. Additionally, the entire NFT data is stored in the transaction that created the compressed NFT. So you can already see the drawback of using compressed NFTs, right? So as you can imagine, crawling through millions of transactions, every time you just want to fetch the data of one of these NFTs, it's for sure not the best user experience, right? And even as a developer, if you want to just get the data of NFT, you'll have to parse all these transactions. So you could see that compressed NFTs rely on some RPCs to index their information in real time in order to abstract this away from the end user. So although you can mint a lot of NFTs for a small amount of being like a really small cost, then you'll have a lot of costs on the client side to be able to parse through all these transactions just to fetch the data of that NFT. That's why, I don't know if you guys will remember that in the beginning, you could not see the metadata of your compressed NFTs on your Phantom wallet because of this. It was really hard to index all this different data from the transaction. Then Metaplex created the Metaplex DAS API, DES API, to actually help this. I'll leave here a document, a link that you guys can check if you want to learn a little bit more about the Bubblegum program. If I saw 0 thumbs up for the Bubblegum program, for sure, I will see even less for the hybrid. Who's aware of the hybrid program, or MPL 404? Anyone? No one. All right. So MPL 404 is basically a new model for digital assets. At the core of the model, as you can see here, is a swap program that trades a fixed number of fungible assets for a non-fungible asset, or the other way around. The swap is basically a dual escrow system, ensuring that all available non-fungible assets are backed by escrowed fungibles and vice versa. So let's talk a little bit more about the swapping. So this actually gives the ability to freely move between fungible and non-fungible assets in a predictable way, allowing this new asset to take advantage of the best aspects of both asset types. So non-fungible assets can now benefit from the liquidity and distribution and opportunities associated with fungible assets, and the other way around, fungible assets will be able to benefit from the utility, collectibility, and identity that the non-fungible world gives. And then there is a new fun feature, which is actually the re-rolling, that this MPL hybrid program includes this option to re-roll the asset each time it's swapped. So the example will be, let's say that every NFT will be able to have his metadata reset as it enters the escrow again, and then it will be randomly reassigned the metadata again once it leaves that escrow. So the creator will have the ability to manage available trades, as well to charge a small fee during this swap. So it could be like, imagine a loot box that you can use as gamification for your game, right? So every single time that NFT will enter the swap, the metadata will be just reset, And once that NFT comes out, it will come out with a totally different metadata, still having the same address of the same NFT. So this actually gives the ability to craft more dynamic collections, and it can suit different needs for your project. Actually, Jeff, if you're around, it will be nice as well to do one staking example of core, and later on having one hybrid as well. I think this is actually a pretty good feature that a lot of people don't use at the moment. And core, I hope to see thumbs up for core, please. Who's aware of? Okay, Jeff, of course. Jeff, can I get a thumbs up from you for Umi?
I don't have enough thumbs down here to tell you how I really feel about Umi.
Core is the new digital asset standard that Metaplex created. It basically creates a single account for non-fungible digital assets. So basically, core is for NFTs. Don't confuse core as you can use it for fungible tokens. No, core is a new single account standard for non-fungible assets. Now you can ask me, yeah, André, cool, but I work with the token metadata program. It works well. Why the hell do I need a new standard? Well, look at this. The token metadata program was built on top of a token program. So to create, and that will create a lot of overhead, right? So in order to have an NFT, you need to have this mint account to represent your asset. You will need this metadata account that will have your URI, as we saw before, the URI, the name, the symbol, everything. Then you'll need this token account, which will be that ATA that you're familiar with, this associated token account that will actually hold or store the NFT. And then you will need this edition account to be able to prove this non-fungibility of your asset. If you look at it, this is all the bytes that you will need to use in order to represent an NFT. And so Metaplex thought, like, why do we need all this if you can create a new standard that doesn't need this? Why do I need to check decimals if I know that the decimals of an NFT is always 0? Why do I need to check the supply if I know that the supply is only 1? Why do I need an ATA to store it if I can just have an owner field on my asset that will actually set who is the owner of that NFT? Why do I need a metadata account when I can actually have the URI in here, the name, and then have plugins to add different attributes if needed? And if I can, in all these accounts, say that is a non-fungible asset, I can just get rid of this edition account. With this single account approach, all these accounts were not needed anymore, except for the mint account, of course, because you need to know which mint you're actually creating. And you could create an account just taking 75 bytes instead of all this crazy amount of bytes that you needed. And with this, and this is where actually things get really, really interesting, is that the compute units of minting an NFT is now 17,000 CUs with Core. Does anyone knows the amount of compute units that you have to use to create an NFT using the token metadata program? Does anyone knows, like, roughly? You can write in the chat.
0.022.
That will be the cost. But yeah, that will be the cost to mint the NFT. But the compute units that we'll use, it will be 205K compute units just to mint one NFT. So we went from 205,000 CUs to 17,000 CUs. And since we're talking about costs, the cost to mint an NFT with the token metadata program is 0.0 Sol, as we said, that's correct. With Core, it's 0.0029 Sol. So the difference in cost, it's insane. It's really, really insane. However, if you look at what's happening nowadays, you still see that most of the protocols still use a token metadata program. They don't use Core. So I know that Metaplex is actually trying to and not enforce, but try to show these protocols that actually Core is better for the user, for them. me as a developer, I saw a lot of times, I don't know if you guys are aware, but before the limit of compute units per transaction when you're creating your anchor program defaults to 200K. So a lot of times just minting an NFT, I would run out of compute units in that transaction, just minting one NFT. It was insane. Now it's 17K. It's fine. I can mint the NFT. I can do whatever I want extra. I can add more instructions to that transaction, and I'll be good to go. Let's check this example. If you guys, and I know that a lot of you already did the builders cohort or are doing it, so you are aware of how a transfer of a NFT or a token is performed, right? So you have this mint account, which is actually your NFT, let's say it's your NFT. And if you want to transfer, you'll need to have the ATA where the token is stored at the moment. You will need the ATA where you want to transfer the token to. You will need the owner of this token account because it will have to sign, because you'll be transferring from this ATA to this ATA. And in case it's a PDF from your program, you'll need the signer seeds and create a CPI, an invoke sign or an invoke, depending if you're using a PDA or not, just to transfer one token or one FT from one account to the other. With the asset V1, guess what? The only thing that you do, you change the owner of it. You change the owner of it saying, okay, I have the NFT, it's on my wallet is 6K, whatever. I want to transfer it to Jeff. Great. I just transfer this owner address to Jeff's wallet address, and now Jeff will be the owner of this NFT. So as you can see, it helps a lot in all these different operations. What about collections? Collections still exist. Again, you will not need to have this collection and then having this collection NFT signing or creating a CPI to be able to prove that it's part of the collection. No, with the assets, if it's part of the collection, you just set the update authority to the address of the collection. Pubkey, if it has an update authority that doesn't belong to a collection, you just put that address and the pubkey. So it makes that really easy as well. Another thing that was introduced with Core is actually this new functionalities that we call plugins. You can think of plugins like an on-chain app for your NFT that can either store data or provide additional functionality to the asset. We have three different types of plugins. We have owner managed plugins, which is actually are plugins that can only be added to the core asset by the asset owner. So the asset owner will have to sign for this. So imagine if you want to, we have three examples of this plugin: the transfer delegate, the freeze delegate, and the burn delegate. So if I want to allow someone else to transfer my NFT, I can use the transfer delegate, and me as the owner of the NFT, I can add this plugin to the NFT. The freeze delegate, if I want to stake my NFT, I can do the freeze delegate to a protocol that could freeze it, or the burn delegate if I want to give the authority for someone to burn my NFT. Then you have the authority managed plugins. So these plugins are only the authority of the MPL core asset. So basically what you set here as the update authority, these are the only ones that can actually add or change this plugin. So basically, if it's part of the collection, only the collection will be able to set or change these attributes. And we have three different plugins that can be used as authority managed plugins. We have the royalties. So the collection can put the royalties of any kind of transfer or sale from the NFT, the update delegate, and the attributes. We will look at the attributes plugin in a bit once we go into the example. And then we have the permanent plugins. Permanent plugins are plugins that can only be added to the asset at the time of creation. And we have three different ones: permanent transfer, permanent freeze, and permanent burn. Imagine that you want to create a soul-bound NFT. You will create the NFT and you'll put the permanent freeze delegate in it. It will be done at creation, and once the user has the NFT will not be able to transfer it, burn it. Probably he can burn it, but he will not be able to transfer it. So it's a soul-bound token straight away. Permanent burn. Imagine that you're doing a game and you want to be able to burn that token at any time. If you're doing, like, imagine a survive, those survive games or whatever, and once the user finishes it, is not able to complete a task, you want to burn his NFT. So once you create an NFT, you put a permanent burn plugin on it, and you'll be able to burn it at any time you want. If you guys want to learn more about plugins, there we go. I'll put a link right here. Great. Yes, Kishore, tell me.
Yeah, keep going, Andre. He just got here, so I don't know what
Right,
questions
cool.
you would have.
Right. If you guys want to learn more about these plugins, scan this QR code. It will take you to a different kind of plugin, which is actually the external plugin. It's something really nice to look at. And now what I actually want you guys to have a look at is the difference, and I'll show you two different code bases for it. But before we go that, let's go for some Q&A regarding what you guys seen here. Hanet, if you have a question, please.
Yes, Andre. So I have a question, like, is it compulsory, like all the assets will have a collection?
The assets, they don't need to have a collection. So basically, you can create an asset that it's part or it's not part of a collection, right? And the way you will do it is you have the update authority there. And if your asset is part of a collection, you will set the update authority to this type collection, and you'll put the address of the collection. And of course, the collection will need to sign that transaction. If it's not part of a collection, but you still want an update authority, and that can happen when you want to just have a kind of update authority to your asset in order to add attributes, to add royalties, to add whatever, you will set the update authority to address, and you put the address in there. You can even set it to none. If you don't want any kind of update authority, you can set it to none, and basically no one will be able to add attributes or royalties, and you'll not be part of the collection.
And also, like, if I freeze the collection, then all the asset under that collection will get freeze. Or
exactly, whatever. Once the asset is part of a collection, whatever you do to the collection will affect all the NFTs that are parts of the collection.
Okay. Thank you.
So basically, it will inherit all the things that you have there. Yes, got out.
Yes. Like, it was like a question. I was trying to build something with Metaplex core, so I was just clearing that out.
Yeah. Please, feel free to reach out to me during your struggle times, and I'll be happy to help you.
Okay, I have a question. Like,
Yes.
there are different ways to create an Metaplex NFT. Like, there's core package, then there's compressed NFTs, and there's normal. So I just want to ask you, what are the differences between these three types of NFT creations?
All right, so that's basically when we went through all these program examples. If you see that, imagine that you're creating a game, right? And if you're creating a game and all the assets of your game, it's an NFT. So if you're creating a sword, for instance, for your game, and that's an NFT, it's way cheaper for you if you use a compressed NFTs, because the cost will be way smaller. However, there is a drawback for every single one. I actually don't see a drawback for core, but that's my personal opinion. But if you look at the compressed NFTs, it's cheaper. Yeah, it's really, really cheap. However, if you then try to parse the data of that NFT, since the data is starting the transaction, you will need an RPC indexing to go through all the transactions and parse it. So it's really RPC heavy. However, if it's for a game, you don't really care about seeing your NFT in your wallet or whatever. So compressed NFTs are the way to go. If you're just doing regular NFTs, I would say core at the moment is the way to go because of compute units usage and because of the cost of minting the NFT. However, a lot of people are still using the token metadata program, which is still fine. However, it has, in the end, it does the same as core NFT with a lot of overhead, because since it's built on top of the token program, you will need this additional account creation as a metadata account, as the edition account. So as I was saying before, right, it will consume you 200 1,000 compute units instead of the 17,000, and it will cost you 10 times more. Yeah. Philip, tell me.
Okay, so one thing I didn't understand is where is the edition data stored?
The edition data, so it's an account. So the same way you have a mint account, you will have that metadata account. It's going to be derived from the mint address and the words metadata and the token metadata program ID. That will be your metadata account, and then you will have an edition account that's derived from the word edition, the mint, and the token metadata program ID, and probably another C that I don't remember. So basically, once you have your NFT, your mint address, if there is an edition account, if you can derive an account with those seeds and that account exists, it means that actually your NFT it's a non-fungible, because if you try to create that edition account and you have a supply of 2, Metaplex will not create that edition account for you, so that CPI will fail. So basically, the edition data, it's not stored. It is, but it's basically an account that you create the same way you create a mint account, the same way you create a metadata account. Make sense?
Yeah.
Perfect.
We got a room of half people that know how we operate and half the people that are new to us. And the new people are probably like, what the actual fire truck?
Yeah. So let's have a look in here. This is actually something that we created to mint one NFT with a token metadata program. So imagine, what do we need? We need a mint account. In this case, we're initializing it, making sure that the decimals were 0 while initializing it, giving a field authority, but this doesn't matter for what I'm trying to show you guys here. I can actually put my camera. Why is my camera off? Anyway, so as we saw before, we will need this mint account. We will need this user token account. What is this user token account for? It's basically where we're gonna send the NFT to. That's why we need to make sure that it's derived from the mint and from the user. We will need this metadata account. In here, it's an account info, because Metaplex is actually the program that will be initializing this. We will need a collection mint because it's part of a collection. We will need this master edition account, which is, Philip, again, this edition account that Metaplex will create. That's why it's an account info, because it's not initialized yet. So basically, when you do a CPI to the token metadata program, in order for this account to be successfully created, it will check that this mint has 0 decimals, that the supply is only 1, and yes, if those checks succeed, then it will create the master edition account. We will need the token program. This is a token program and the token metadata program. So we will mint the token. We'll create a CPI to the token program to mint to our user ATA the amount of 1 token. Then we'll have to create this metadata account. To create this metadata account, we will have to create a CPI to the token metadata program with all the different fields, if it's part of the collection or not. However, still, if you put an NFT as part of a collection, you need to set this verified to false, because then in order to be verified, the collection NFT will have to verify it. Probably I have it here, I can show it. And there we go. Then we created the CPI with all these freaking accounts and all these different arguments just to create a metadata account. Are we done? No. Now you need to create the master edition account. So you need to create another CPI to the token metadata program just to create this this master edition account. And as you can see, all this that you see here, all these different instructions, all these different grades, all these different dependencies, just to create one NFT. Are we done? No, we still need to verify it as part of the collection. So again, we need the mint, we need the collection mint, we need now the collection metadata, we'll need the NFT metadata, we'll need all this, again, to create another CPI just to verify that NFT as part of the collection. Can you imagine doing this just to mint a freaking NFT? This is how the token metadata program works. And now let's actually see how you can do it with Core. I'll give you the repo here so you guys can actually play with it. Let's mint an asset. What do we need? A user, a mint, and the sister program, and then an IPO core program. So we passed from 1 million accounts to 4 accounts. What do we need to mint the asset? P1 CPI. That's it. Tell who is the owner, who's paying for it. If you want to add a URI, give it a URI, and then you have this plugin. This is actually where you can actually add plugins. In this case, we are adding the attribute plugins. What you can do with the attributes plugins, you can actually store metadata on chain. Be aware that the more attributes you add, the more expensive it will be to create your NFT, since this is actually stored on chain. So you can actually store metadata on chain. So you could actually create this URI to an empty string, or if you want just to have the picture of the NFT in there. And then all the metadata could be here. If it's like 5 or 6 attributes, if it's more than that, just do the URI, otherwise it will be really expensive. And there you go. You created one asset. Pretty easy, right? Let me grab the repo of this one. So you can actually play with it, change it, put another some different plugins in there, and you guys can have fun with it. So there you go. Run it. I can give you this example of the core. I cannot give you what I was showing before because it's a private repo that we use internally, but you will have there the Metaplex core. However, I will be able to. So since I'm sharing the screen, let's pass this one here. I'm not sure if I sent you guys the link to learn more about core. If I didn't, there you go. You can have a look here, but most likely I can go here and write Metaplex token program, and you'll have the overview here. I'll put here the link, and you will see all the mess that's. It's not a mess. Like, I mean, protocol still is right, so it still needs to work. But you can see here that you'll need this metadata account, which is actually a PDA derived from your mint account and your token account that has all these different things. Then that you will need these JSON standards to start the URI. Basically, if you want to start attributes on the token metadata program, you cannot do it on chain. You have to have this URI with the off-chain JSON metadata. Then again, you will need this master edition account that you can see again that it's a PDA, again derived from your mint account, and that will actually check. It will check the supply and it will check the decimals. Basically, the existence of this master edition account acts as this proof of non-fungibility. You can see all these different things and all these overheads that can happen just to create this NFT. I know that this is a lot of information now for the beginning, but again, once you dive into this documentation and you see the examples, then when we go into the next workshop, if Jeff allows me to do it in the next week, and that will be good, that it will actually live stream on X. You'll actually be able to go with me through a staking program with Core that you actually see. I can show you then what I need to do to create an NFT staking program with token metadata, and then you will build one with Core, and you will see the differences and how easy it is. So, questions, guys. Who can tell me what's the main difference between creating an NFT with the token metadata program and the Core program?
So it's like I have read through the document, so I just remember few. It's like it reduces the number of accounts. Like in general, we have edition accounts, master edition, metadata accounts, and like for a single thing, we have like collection also. But if we mint using the core NFTs, we just need two, like a collection account and the asset account. So it's reducing the number by half. Like, so it's saving the cost also, as everything on Solana is itself an account. So then it's a good approach of using a Metaplex core, and hence it the less power computation, which means less what cost. Also,
Perfect.
then it's like the extension thing, URI thing. You can store additional information off chain. Like this can be done in the token metadata 22 program also. But
Yep.
why to prefer core NFTs? Because it offering many things at the same time, like saving the also less accounts, also giving that extension thing, URI, off-chain data, and also you have a different explorer for the core NFTs. Like I've tried it, like it's
That
a
is
good
true.
thing.
Yeah.
It's a good thing.
That
Like
is true.
you can have a different, exactly different explorer. So it's a like I found it nice. Like
That
that's
is
it.
really true. And everything that you guys are writing here in the chat is actually true. So as Philip said, the number of accounts needed and the CPUs used, again, like the not the CPUs, right? I will say that it's the CUs, like the compute units, yeah. So it's basically, again, it's changing from 200K to 17K. Like it's more than 10 times less. It's insane. The core program saves compute units, yes, less compute units, cheaper, way cheaper. So again, we're talking about 0.0 0 that 0.0029 from 0.022 Sol, which is an insane change. So when you want to transfer it, you just change the owner's address. That's great. It's simpler. I think it's way simpler as well. As a developer, it's way easier just to create that CPI to Metaplex to create the asset instead of having to create this master edition, then this metadata account, then minting the NFT. In all just that's where actually all these CU consumptions come from, right? So you're creating 3 different accounts, you can take 3 different CPIs using a lot of different accounts, so you consume a lot of CPU. So nice, I can see that you guys got that. All right, so now let's switch just a little bit to the bubblegum. Who can tell me what is the bubblegum, or basically what does bubblegum program empowers, and what's the drawback of it? Yes, Nissan, yeah. You actually can mass mint NFTs cheaply because again, this bubblegum program is for this compressed NFTs. So basically all the data of the NFT will be stored in a Merkle tree, which is, I'll give a link, see if you guys want to learn more about Merkle trees. Yes, Mandit, tell me.
Like can you say me like the drawback, like why this bubblegum is not so much popular?
It is popular. It's actually quite used. Imagine Star Atlas uses it. Photo
As
finish.
compared to other programs, like why is
Yeah.
it like less?
So the drawback is actually, since the data of the NFT is stored in a transaction. So the transaction that creates the NFT with the Mimo program, the data is stored in there. And then you just create this new hash of the data, which will be the leaf of the Merkle tree. So imagine, in order for you to verify or just to fetch the data of that NFT, you need to parse all the transactions. It's really RPC heavy, right? You need to parse transactions and parse transactions and parse transactions until you are actually able to find the data of your NFT. So that's really a drawback of it. I'll put here the link for the bubblegum program, and if you scroll down there, you'll see that actually if you scroll to the part of the Metaplex that's API, I'm actually gonna go and share it. So let's go here with this one. So as you can see here, it is kind of bad since the entire NFT data is stored in this transaction that created compressed NFT. Imagine, so the initial NFT data is stored in this transaction. The NFT data changelog is in this transaction. Then you changed something different, it's in this transaction. So you can imagine that crawling through all this million of transactions, it's a pain, right? And it's really RPC heavy, so Metaplex created this DAS API in order to be able to help you indexing all these different NFTs. So as you can see, it's the biggest drawback is RPC heavy. So it's going to be heavy on your client side. Again, if you don't really care about fetching the data of your NFT, since it's just using a sword for a game or something like that, it's really heavy, and it's really heavy. No, it's really helpful. And then you need to see on the other end as well. So if you have a game and you're gonna mint 1 million of your swords, I think it's better for your business to parse through all these transactions than just having a huge cost just to mint these NFTs. Since it's a game, you don't want to put the cost of minting this NFT on the user. You're going to put it on your protocol, and the price to mint these CNFTs, it depends. It's going to depend on the size of your Merkle tree. So I'm going to present again, and if you look here, look how much you will pay if you have the depth of your Merkle tree for a number of 1 billion CNFTs. See the cost. Okay, you'll have a storage cost of 7 Sol, transaction cost, but then see how much it will cost you to mint one CNFT. 0.0000005,007. So if you want to mint 1 billion and the cost is in your protocol, go with compressed NFTs. You're not going to care about how you index it because you're going to save a lot in your in the cost of minting that NFT. If you're minting a NFT collection like Mad Lads or Planosaurus, you're not going to care about this because otherwise it's not that big of NFTs that you're minting. It's like maybe 1,000, something like that. And basically the cost will be in the user. And then for you to be able to get the data of that NFT, just the overhead that you have to parse all the transactions, it's not worth it.
Okay, thank you.
No worries.
What did brought up Metaplex? Why did Metaplex start?
How did Metaplex started?
Yeah.
So Metaplex was actually an initiative of Solana Labs. Then they just turned into Metaplex because they wanted to have a way to create this this standard for non-fungible assets. That's how it actually started. But it was done in such a fast way because they wanted that yesterday. And so what happened is that they built it on top of the token metadata program, and it's still the program that you use till today. So Metaplex was basically created for that, to be able to have a standard for NFTs that was initially an initiative of Solana Labs. Then they just worked the same way they did with ASA and Agave and all those different things. Then after that, they just started creating more protocols to empower not only non-fungible tokens, but as well fungible tokens with this additional metadata. And now you have and now you see how much they have grown, but they even have their own RPCs with Aura and everything. So it's pretty insane. Do you have an example for TURBIN with Metaplex? I'm trying to see what you can use as a use case for TURBIN for Metaplex. Basically, you could, if you want to, some kind of have rewards, and those rewards to be any kind of fungible token that is additional metadata on it, because I don't see a really direct relation between TURBIN and any kind of fungible and non-fungible assets, unless you use something as a reward for your TURBIN protocol. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look, you gotta be creative here in the way you think about this. What is your DPIN protocol doing? What is the purpose of the physical infrastructure network? What is the purpose of it? Is it, maybe it is a something that grabs. Let's use helium as an example. Is it a something that collects data about how much service you're providing through a Helium hotspot that creates points. And as a, maybe there's a leaderboard, and if you rise to a certain level in the leaderboard, you get a special NFT that designates not only your position, but also entitles you to certain rewards and privileges on a platform. As this soulbound NFT, when you log in, the protocol can identify the presence of this soulbound NFT in your wallet and allow you to a certain part of a platform because of your performance in supporting a decentralized infrastructure network. You just got to be creative on that. You don't want to force an NFT into a deep end unless it makes sense. But if it makes sense, there's certainly opportunities. NFTs, soulbound, actually, I call them wallet bound because it's bound to the wallet, not to the person's soul. I can very easily send Andre all my information on a wallet and give it to him or sell it to him candidly. But, one of the things that certain projects will do is they will have a mechanism when you log in to check your wallet to see if you possess certain assets. And if you possess a wallet-bound NFT, it gives you special designation within that platform.
Yep. So basically, that's the solution that you need to do, right? It's basically, it's not seeing. You cannot look at it as deep in and Metaplex. It's basically your protocol and how your protocol and the needs of your protocol to have a fungible or non-fungible asset in there. Then yes, if you need it in some kind of way, then you can have a relationship between Metaplex and any kind of protocol.
I would not recommend you build a project from the standpoint of trying to add features. Solve the problem first and find the best features and tools to make it the best it can be. Don't, like some people are like, oh, I'm going to join this track and add this, this tool or this feature or this integration because, so-and-so is sponsoring that track and it will look good. That doesn't work. Magic Block is not going to give you a leg up to win the Magic Block consumer app just because you figure out a way to use Magic Block ephemeral rollup if it doesn't make sense for the protocol. Look, when if you haven't been through the investment stage yet, the first thing most investors will ask you is, why are you using blockchain for this? What's the value add? You might come across people that say, why are you using an NFT here? What's the value add? And if there isn't a good answer for that, it just feels like overhead to an investor that's unnecessary.
That is actually correct. It's the first thing that the first thing that people ask me is, oh, I'm building this. People ask me, why do you need blockchain for that? That's the thing. And sometimes I'm like, probably I don't. that's right. The first, exactly. That's the first question that you will have.
So we've got a lot of stuff upcoming that we're going to put out there for y'all. If you're not a Turbine builder with us, apply if you feel like you're ready. Come into our Discord. But even if you don't work with us, just keep jamming. And if you're here, it means you're interested in building this space. And, we're here to support anybody with that vision.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Andre. You're the best.